5 minutes after the hour of 6 a.m., it is Monday, March 18th, 2019. 23 degrees outside. Shane Matobin on the line with me from Vancouver, British Columbia. Half man, half amazing. And Tom Eagleoff, your morning mayor, in the house. And welcome to the first edition of the week of the KMMS Morning Soapbox. What an introduction is that, huh?
Yeah. Wow, that's a good morning.
We can't afford anybody to do the voiceover for us, so we have to do it ourselves. So, one of these days we'll have some kind of introduction. I don't know.
Well, at least we don't have that gigantic thing that goes, breaking news.
Right. There you are. Well, quite a week, Shane.
Always is. It's, you live in the best country club in the world. You're going to keep busy.
Well, it certainly seems that way, doesn't it? Boy, everybody.
Yeah.
We had another person jump into the Democratic race, and it's probably easier to say who isn't than who is.
Yeah, there's more people joining this race than barn burning swing dance, with cowboy boots and bales of hay, out in the barn. It's going to be quite the party.
I don't know. We'll see. I think it's interesting. The Republicans base who stands on the stage based on polling. Poll numbers, and the Democrats do it by money. Who raises the most money?
You caught that this weekend too, right? Yeah, you have to get a minimum, I think, of a certain amount of people.
Yeah,
I think it's 65,000 people in 20 states have to give you money for you to qualify for the debate.
Oh, is that right? Okay,
something like that.
Yeah, I just thought they just looked at how much you could raise and figured you could reach those people anyway.
Well,
I don't know.
Well, we'll talk about it in 5
We will talk about it. Yeah, with 5 things you need to know. Yeah, we'll get to that. So, weather, gosh, thankfully, finally, we got some warm temperatures coming, Shane. I'm excited about that, and some sunny days. We got sunny today, high of 37, overnight low of 14, and 39 tomorrow. Overnight low of 13 and 43 on Wednesday and Thursday. 43 both days.
Wow.
Wednesday sunny, Thursday mostly sunny. And then Friday 46 degrees and Saturday 45 and Sunday 42. So we are going into some much warmer temperatures. We'll get rid of a lot of this snow with a series of 40-degree days, and the sun's a little higher in the sky thanks to daylight savings time, so we're
and the shift of the Earth's rotation.
Well, that's got a little bit to do with it, I guess. But,
just a little bit.
A little bit. So,
well, we were 62 degrees this weekend. Snow's melted and gone, so you've got hot weather headed your way.
Yes, we do. Well, I'll tell you, 4 or 5 days of 46 highs should get rid of a lot of this snow. So we're ready, man. It's piled up everywhere.
Oh, it's the winter wheat, right?
Yeah. Well, I scrape the street and they dump it in my yard, so it's can't see the house for the snow pile. That's pretty funny. All right, temperatures around the area right now. Livingston is 17 degrees. Manhattan is 12. Three Forks is 10 degrees. Gallatin Gateway is 21. Ennis is 16. Gardner 17. Down in Big Sky, it's 14 degrees there, and at the airport in Belgrade, it is 16 degrees, and we are at a nice, balmy 19 degrees right now in our lavishly appointed downtown studios here in the middle of, almost the exact center of Bozeman, give or take a mile or two. We're pretty close. So, but anyway, it looks pretty nice. There is some snow in the forecast next weekend, but I think that will probably disappear. It's only about 40% or 30% chance, so I think that'll disappear as the warm weather continues on through the week. So we'll see how that plays out over the week. So. But, hey, we've got to talk about this day in history, of course.
Yes, of course. Absolutely.
Well, in 1766, Britain repealed the Stamp Act.
That's right. And, this is that famous Stamp Act of 1765.
Yes.
The George III, he imposed this on the colonies, and it was a direct tax. And the purpose of the tax was to have the colonists and plantations in America pay the cost of having the British soldiers over here, in America, and didn't go over so well, as we know. It was, one of those taxes that, unfair taxation without representation. We learned in grade school, but yes, it was dropped. Somewhat like on today, March 18th, 1766.
Yeah. Do you really believe they still teach the Stamp Act in schools?
I will say yes, because I want to believe that.
Okay, all you parents listening out there that have kids anywhere from what, 8 to 14, ask them what the Stamp Act of 1766 is and see what you get.
See what they tell you.
Give us a call and let us know if they,
or King George III.
Yeah, if they even know that there was kings anywhere still running around.
Well, the British had just finished fighting the French and Indian Wars, and so they needed money, and it was called the 7 Years' War. They always had these extended wars in Europe, and the colonies, it's not just in the United States. I mean, the colonies in the Caribbean, in Africa, in Asia. I mean, all over the world. India, they all paid vast amount of money to the European countries. That the Danish, the Germans, the British. It wasn't just the British doing it.
Oh no, it wasn't. Yeah. Well, another thing you can ask them is, any president ever been elected twice, but not in succession?
That's right. That's a great question.
Yeah, 1837, Grover Cleveland. He was the 22nd and the 24th president of the United States, and he was born in Caldwell, New Jersey. And I guess the trivia question is, who was the 23rd president between him and Grover Cleveland, or Grover
Tyler, President Tyler?
I don't know. You'll have to look it up. I have no clue. I have no clue who it is.
I will look it up. Okay. When we're thanking the farmers.
Right. Okay. Well, in 1922, Gandhi was sentenced to prison in India for civil disobedience. Of course, the great peaceful leader that. I guess got India democracy finally after years and years.
And remarkable man, because he was a man of peace, like Martin Luther King.
Right. Yeah.
Born the 2nd of October 1869, died the 30th of January 1948. Was assassinated by one of his own, which is somewhat sad. Mm-hmm. But the remarkable thing about the man was it was about a movement of peace, and he was a Buddhist. So, he couldn't very well be otherwise. I mean, other than peaceful. Yeah. But he got arrested because he went to the ocean to recover salt, because salt was a big control that British had over the Indian people, was salt, because there was such a need for it. Yeah. Tropical climate, need to eat it. Important to the body, sort of like water. Yeah. One of those major things.
Well, and also preservation of food. Food too.
Yeah, especially that. Yes, all the other spices that the Indians used to help, maintain the rotten food and give it a different flavor.
Yeah. 1931, Schick invented the first electric razor. I bet that was an interesting way to shave for a lot of people.
It really was, because up until that time, literally, you only had the straight razor and a knife.
That was it. Yeah, that was pretty much it. Yeah.
Well, it was just, there was nothing else.
Yeah.
Huge shit. Yeah. Huge. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know when Gillette came out with their stuff. Maybe you look that up too while you're looking up who was the other president.
Sure.
You're gonna be busy this morning. I'm putting you to work. Okay. Let's see. 1940, Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini held a meeting at Brenner Pass, during which the Italian dictator agreed to join Germany's war against France and Britain, and were off to the races with World War II.
Well, and this amazing thing, because the war started in 1938, as you know, Hitler invaded Poland, and Mussolini hadn't decided what he was doing because he was busy in Spain. And the reason this is important is that they decided, or Mussolini decided to join in with him as part of the Axis.
Yeah.
The reason I mention this is because of what happened in World War One. It was a similar cause day effect. Do I do or not do this? But here's one for the kids in the car today. When did Germany declare war on the U.S. or did the U.S. declare war on Germany, and when?
Yeah, that would be a good
Because
question.
December 7th, 1941, as we know, happened, and on the 9th, Roosevelt had his speech to declare war, this day of infamy. So I'll give it away. On the next day, the 10th, Hitler declared war against the U.S. because he had a pact with Japan. So U.S. never declared war against Germany. Germany declared war against the U.S.
Yeah, we did declare war against the Japanese, but the other way around.
You declared war against the Japanese. But it's interesting that how both those things came about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, in 1942, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed an executive order. It was an executive order, Shane, authorizing the War Relocation Authority, which was put in charge of interning Japanese Americans. So, it was just an executive order. Round up the Japs and put them in a pen.
Well,
to be politically incorrect.
It was at the time. It wasn't, because we were at war with them.
Yeah,
and the atrocities the Americans were suffering was, in some ways, it was to protect the Japanese from Americans as much as it was.
It probably was, because we didn't have a Geneva Convention then, so. Anything went. You could do whatever you wanted to prisoners, and you could bomb
or people at home and your neighbors.
Yeah, you could bomb hospitals. Didn't really matter. Hospitals, schools, anything that was in the way was fair game. And so,
but everybody thought that the Japanese America would turn into a terrorist, but they didn't, of course. But they thought for the safety of themselves and the repercussions, because parents, Americans can be pretty aggressive at home, too.
Well, nope, that's true. 1962, France and Algerian rebels agreed to a truce after more than 7 years of war. France and the Algiers.
And it's an amazing story, because that goes back several hundred years with regards to the Ottoman Empire and the pirates of the Mediterranean, those rotters.
Yeah. 1965, Soviet cosmonaut Alexei Leonov went on the first spacewalk, and quite a big deal. Sit out there for 20 minutes on a line. Not too bad.
I don't know how they do that dance. Could you do that?
The spacewalk?
Could you do
Yeah.
Could you do that?
When I was younger, maybe. Now it's questionable if I can walk.
Yeah, that's good. I have a problem knowing which way is up and down.
Right, yeah. 1965, Soviet cosmonaut Alexei Leonov went on the first spacewalk. We talked about that. 1974, most of the Arab oil-producing nations ended their embargo against the United States. So that was back when the gas lines were going on, and we had...
And remember, this is one of those Democratic scares.
Yeah.
This was remember, Jimmy Carter puts his scarf, or he puts on the
sweater,
sits in front of the White House, Roosevelt fireplace, has this big speech and says, "We're running out of oil. There's no more oil left. You got to put your thermostat down to 68 degrees. Yeah. And now we're in serious trouble." It's like this Green Deal, right? Like it's like, what is it with these Democrats that come up with these ideas? Like, what?
We turned the thermostats down for about a week, and it's cold. Not doing this. Forget it.
Anyway, we weren't out of oil. The result of this embargo was OPEC was formed. Yep. And the only thing about oil that was important since 1974 is the price went up.
That's for sure. It did go up, yeah. Well, in 2000, Taiwan ended more than half a century of National Party rule by electing opposition leader Chen Shih-bin president of Taiwan. So,
Yeah, the Kuomintang, which
yeah.
was the General Chiang Kai-shek's party that came over, when Mao took over, finally won on the mainland. It had been in control basically, as a conservative military party. And so what happens is you see as countries evolve, as Taiwan has, and in a very short period of time, 50 years, people decide to moderate and want to change things a little bit. So yeah, it was probably a good thing. It was pretty much a dictatorship up until 2000, really was.
Yeah. 2005, doctors in Florida, acting on orders of a state judge, removed Terry Schiavo's feeding tube. The brain-damaged woman died 13 days later. And what makes that kind of hit home locally, Shane, is that was about the time that Glenn Beck joined our little family here. That's all he talked about for about a month. the new jock on here. And I remember that why do we care about this Terry Schiavo?
Well, it's a hard truth because of euthanasia, and
it was a sad story. That family fought to keep her alive, thinking that maybe she might recover somehow, but no dice. So
I think a lot of people thought that the abortionists would take up the banner of euthanasia. But I think that to be honest with you, I think they got together and they said, no, we're not doing this because that's too much death to be responsible for.
Yeah.
Let's just take up our banner on abortion. Let somebody else deal with euthanasia. That's sort of where I think it is in your politics.
Yeah. 2008 Democratic presidential candidate Barack Obama confronted America's racial divide with a speech in Philadelphia. It was prompted by incendiary racial remarks made by Obama's half African-American pastor, the Reverend Jeremiah Wright.
Those chickens did come home to roost.
Yes, they did. 2010, Barack Obama signed into law a $38 billion jobs bill containing a modest mix of tax breaks and spending designed to encourage the private sector to start hiring again. And we all know how that worked out.
Yeah.
2011, President Barack Obama demanded that Muammar Gaddafi halt all military attacks on civilians and said that if the Libyan leader did not stand down, the United States would join other nations in launching military action against him, and it would be a cold day when Barack Obama initiated action against anyone.
There you go.
So, all right.
Now the farmers.
We're way over time. Yeah, we got to do the farmers here. Farmers, ranchers, cab drivers, truck drivers, everybody who gets our stuff to market or gets us where we need to go. All right, we'll be right back. We ran a little long on that segment, so we got Fox News, we've got Montana State News, we've got Brooke Foster with the weather, and we'll be back with more KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane following all these great announcements. So you're going to be really informed as we go through the morning. So stick around. A lot more to come. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. 23 minutes before the top of the hour. It is Monday, March 18th, 2019, 23 degrees outside. Tommy Galoff, your morning mayor in the house. You're on the KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. Shane Mataman on the line from Vancouver, British Columbia, half man, half amazing, and we're happy to have him along with us. And, well, all kinds of things going on locally, Shane.
Well, you're going to get to that, but I got to follow up from our last block. Okay, here it is, folks. Benjamin Harris was an American politician and lawyer who served as the 23rd president of the United States.
Harrison, yeah.
I'm Harrison, yeah. 1889 to 1893. He was a grandson of the 9th president, William Henry Harrison. And William Henry Harrison was the 9th president, and he only served from March 4th to April 4th, 1841, because he died of a cold that he got during giving his inauguration. Yeah. And John Tyler took over for him. So there you go. Oh, and the interesting thing about that, March 4th was the inauguration date up until Truman When he took over from Roosevelt, after that, they changed the guidelines about how many terms the president could live. And when they did that, they changed the inauguration date to January 20th. So there you go.
Yep.
And Gillette, this is a good story. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Gillette, September 28, 1901.
Wow.
117 years ago.
Hmm.
Yes, indeed. Big deal. Changed
First safety razor, so they called it anyway.
So they had them during the war for the boys in the trenches and so on and so forth, and to today.
Yeah, they're still hanging in there, and I don't know. We got a whole bunch of shavers, the Dollar Shave Club, and this Shave Club, and that Shave Club, and I don't know. I tried one of them, and I don't remember which one it was. But anyway, I tried the one where the people say that they supposedly make their own blades, and I got to tell you that whether my beard's too tough or what, nope, it didn't work.
Yeah, well, I buy a bag that comes like with 20 of them, with, our favorite.
Yeah, the Gillette throwaways or whatever.
Yeah, because they work great. And these ones you pay $7 or something for blades and stuff.
I know. Yeah. We got 5 blades in them and whatever. Yeah. So, all right. Well, that's what I do.
You go. All right, the Bozeman Daily Chronicle. Take it away, Mayor, and your daily report.
All right. Well, the final section of Bozeman High's Mandeville Creek is going to be restored. I'm not sure what restoration it needs, but it runs along the side of the school, in case you didn't know, or it's part of it anyway. Kind of runs through the school. But anyway, they gave a report, restoration supporters, in other words, gave a report of their plans this week to school board trustees. And the design will ultimately have to be approved by the trustees and the city of Bozeman, said Rob Watson, the school superintendent. It's very similar to the upstream project, he said. So I guess, wow, if it worked upstream, well, why not try it downstream, huh?
Exactly.
Why not? Well, the upstream restoration project has already transformed a straight ditch in the east edge of school property into a meandering stream with natural rocks, native plants and trees, and art sculptures to make the stream a more attractive natural feature, improve water quality, and create learning opportunities for the students. So the final phase will take place along North 11th. As I said, it runs kind of along the side of the school there a little bit. It's just kind of a ditch. Let's call it what it is. It's a friggin' ditch.
Yeah, that's right.
Side of the school. So the final phase will take place along North 11th and from the high school's north parking lot entry at West Villard Street, north past the old tennis courts and practice field, to the entry drive into the support services building parking lot. So it doesn't meander as much, but you got 11th on one side and the school on the other, so it can't meander too much. So good for them, Mal. So I think they're going to, most of their restoration is going to be mowing, string trimming around it and throwing a couple rocks in there. So I don't know. So.
Well, Elton John's coming to Bozeman. I mean, how cool is this? After a 50-year career, he's doing his, I love this.
Yeah.
He's doing his final tour, 3 years, 300 shows.
Yeah. Well, he's been here. He's been here.
Yeah, and he's coming back.
Yeah.
He's going to do 100 shows a year for 3 years.
Yeah.
Wow. That's quite a final tour, man.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Yeah, I was doing the morning show when he came back. We had a contest for tickets and everything, and
fabulous.
Yeah, we had the county commissioners drew the names.
There you
go. Drew the name anyway, I guess, that won tickets to it. But yeah, we had a thing every time I played an Elton John song for a bumper song.
Oh.
Pardon me.
You're starting to sound like me.
Yeah, I know. Every time I played a bumper song of Elton John, they would call in and we'd put them on a list, and then we drew them out of a big jar, and there you are.
Oh, was that a mayonnaise jar?
No, it wasn't a mayonnaise jar.
Ah, come on. It has to be the mayonnaise jar. They kept the ticket. Remember how they used to joke about the Academy Awards? They kept them in a mayonnaise jar.
Well, they kept them in a mason jar, yeah.
Amazing mayonnaise jar. Okay. Well, all right. Okay.
Mayonnaise jar wouldn't be big enough to get your hand in. At least not the county commissioners. They're used to dipping pretty deep, and so.
There you go.
So anyway.
Well, the important thing is they have their hand in a jar, right?
Yeah, that's right. They have their hand in there. So let's take a quick break, and then we got to come back and talk about DNA.
Ooh, this is good.
Yeah, right after this. 12 minutes for the top of the hour. It is Monday, March 18th, 2019. It is 22 degrees outside. Tommy Galoff, your morning mayor in the house. You're on the KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. Shane's in Vancouver, British Columbia, being half man, half amazing. And
hardly.
Have you ever taken a DNA test, Shane? They offer them on TV all the time. Ancestry, My123, whatever.
Well, it's deoxyribonucleic acid, and no, I haven't. It was first discovered by Frederick Miescher in 1869, and two gentlemen from Cambridge in 1953, Francis Crick and James Watson, broke it down and won the Nobel Prize for it. So there you go.
Wow, for DNA. Okay, so yeah. Well, I know a lot of people out there resist thinking about doing that because I don't want the government to know all about me. It's one more invasion in my privacy that, right. They every time you're arrested, they want to swab you down and get you on record. So
that's right.
Your DNA was found at the scene of this crime. So, you're guilty of sin. So, but I don't know. My wife and I have talked about it. She had one done. And from Ancestry, and it came back pretty conclusive. A lot of, most information we already knew. There wasn't any surprises there. She didn't turn out to be, Eskimo, or something.
There you go. There you go.
But we figure at our age, what the hell can they do to us? They haven't already done.
That's right.
So,
exactly right.
Yeah, so I may take one and see what it has. But anyway, the point of this whole exercise about DNA is that some people want to know a little more once they get the DNA test back. They're interested to know if there's cancer in their family. Are they prone to cancers or other diseases that they might be able to prevent by diet or exercise or, weight loss or smoking, cessation or any number of any other health benefits maybe that might slow down the progression of a disease that they might be subject to. But apparently we don't have a whole lot of people here in Bozeman who can do that, can read these things.
Right.
And
amazingly enough, it was President Clinton on March 14th, 2000 that started the Human Genome Project.
Mm-hmm.
And the U.S. committed $1 billion to the research to completely break down the genome, which they thought would take decades. But you know what? They managed to do it within 10 years. It was quite impressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it takes a while. I think it was probably a month or more before the wife got her results back after sending it in. So it's not a quick process like they show you on TV, So it takes a while.
It does take a while
to get it back. But it's
it's like joining that Ancestry website, to find about your ancestors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
same sort of thing.
Yeah,
takes time.
Well, that's what we did. She sent hers off to Ancestry. We decided it might be a little more involved because they had information all the way back to Ellis Island and whatever else, and we weren't sure what 123 had available. So, but anyway, by the start of 2019, more than 26 million people added their DNA to the top 4 commercial ancestry or health databases, according to MIT. And it estimates more people purchased a test in 2018 than all past years combined. So I think there is a curiosity about who you are, where you came from, what your what your ancestral line is, so to speak. I don't know. I've just always, obviously, I have some German descent or ancestry in my family, but I've never really thought much about it because I'm like seventh or eighth generation American. So, the fact that a couple people got together in Germany years ago, what's that got to do with me?
Yeah, well, I started writing a mystery book. I started writing a mystery book called The Final Race. It was about an individual, main character, who had very special DNA.
Oh yeah.
So he was running from everybody. Every government in the world wanted the guy as a petri
wanted his
dish,
DNA,
right?
huh?
Yeah, they wanted his DNA because he had all these cures. Because he was such a healthy individual. And
yeah.
I thought it was a good plot. Never finished it. Should have. Good title.
Well, it's not too late. You're not. You're retired. Go for it.
I should. Yeah, you're right.
All right. We got to take another quick break. We'll be right back. 3 minutes for the top of the hour. Senate President Scott Sales should be joining us at 7 o'clock. So we'll be chatting with him for a little while on what's happening in the legislature. And, might have an important announcement for us. We'll see. And also, Steve White will be in at 8 o'clock, badbills.com. So we'll be talking with Steve about what's going on in the legislature as they wind down into the second half of trying to figure out what to do with our money and our laws and all that stuff. So we'll have all of that coming up on the show ahead. So the other thing, Shane, we had a wedding going on at the 10-mile run. I don't know if that's the way you want to get married or not, but I don't know. What do you think?
Great way to meet women that are similar
Right.
and have ideas like yourself. What better way than that?
Well, I don't know, but anyway, they got 40 friends to run with them at this Bozeman 11th annual Run to the Pub race Saturday, and the couple's been together since they were 18, and they have done these runs ever since they turned 21. Now in their fourth or fifth year, they want to. They've decided they're going to get married at this run, and
Wow!
encourage 40 folks to join them. And I don't know if I got an invitation to that. I think I would say I'm going to send you one heck of a wedding present. Maybe it'll be a gift certificate to a psychologist to figure out what's wrong with you. Are you crazy?
It's sort of interesting that you meet your wife on the run.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to run 10 miles and then what? Dance the night away and what then?
Well, you're wondering, are they running?
Beat.
Are they running from this, or are they running to it?
Well, I don't know. So, but anyway.
Well, we wish them happiness.
Well, we do, of course.
Yeah.
They would sign their marriage license at the finish line and partake in all the run of the pub festivities before heading over to the Emerson Center for the arts and culture and make it legal, I guess. Make it official. So there you are. So, well, I don't know. The only thing I would be happy to meet him at the finish line, but I don't know. I'm taking a rickshaw or something. not running there.
Right. There you go. Yeah, and we could bomb the reception.
There you are. All right.
Go to the reception, break into the reception, and have a free beer.
All right. Scott Sales up next, president of the Montana Senate. We'll be talking about what's going on in the legislature. And then at 8 o'clock, Steve White will join us, badbills.com. So stay tuned. All of that's ahead on the Morning Soapbox. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. 5 minutes after the hour of 7 a.m., it's Monday, March 18, 2019, 22 degrees outside. Tom Eagle off your morning mayor. Shane Montalban on the line with us from Vancouver, British Columbia, half man, half amazing. Tom Eagle off your morning mayor. And we've got Scott Sales on the line, the Montana Senate president. And Scott, thanks for joining us this morning.
You bet. Glad to be there.
Yeah. You've got an announcement for us, I understand.
Yeah, yep. I'm approaching my eighth and final session here. I shouldn't say approaching. I'm right in the middle of my eighth and final session here in Helena, and I don't have a desire to run back for the legislature. And when Corey Stapleton decided to run for governor, I decided to file for his seat. So a week ago today, I filed a C1, and I had a fundraiser up here in Helena on Thursday night. And then I spoke, and I did announce to the people that were at the Lincoln Reagan Day dinner there in Bozeman that I would be running for Secretary of State. But this is the first time actually on a broader audience that I've decided that to get the word out.
Well, we appreciate you coming here first.
You bet. I'd like to keep it local.
Well, of course. Aaron's always scooping me on everything over there in Billings, so.
Well, he's got a little bigger net that he casts.
Well, that's true, But
he probably picks up a few more people. I'll be back on with Aaron later this week, and I'm sure it'll be a topic of discussion to some degree. Anyhow.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I'm excited about it. I've never ran for statewide office before. It's a big undertaking.
Yeah.
I've got quite a few people supporting me, and I think it's gonna be a good experience, win, lose, or draw. But I'm gonna give it everything I got.
Yeah. Well, having known you for a number of years, I would feel pretty confident with you in that position because you are, you're a stand-up guy. You're not afraid to take on, challenges and negativity when it's, you'll go head on into, what you think is the right thing to do. And I've always appreciated that. You've done it in the Senate. You've done it, when you were in the House, and so I think it'd be a benefit to the people of Montana to have you in that position.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. Most people that know me or know of me know that what I'm about. I don't try to sugarcoat things, and I have had the opportunity to lead quite a few times, actually. 4 of the 8 times I've been in the legislature, I've had the top Republican position. I was Speaker of the House. I was the Republican leader in a 50-50 tied House, and then I've had the privilege to be President of the Senate for the last 4 years, or will be 4 years. So anyway, it's been a great opportunity. I've learned a tremendous amount about government. I've got a lot of relationships I've developed here in Helena, which are positive. Yeah, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be an exciting thing, and I'm looking forward to hopefully serving the people of Montana in a different capacity.
Yeah. What's the process of this where you sit down around the kitchen table and was your family surprised you wanted to do this, or is this just one more step in your evolution? How's that all get off the ground?
Well, I knew I wanted to do something, and I've been in the legislature long enough. I knew I wanted to do something different. And quite frankly, I don't even know if there would be any opportunity for me to run for the legislature had I had a desire to do it, because there's a freshman legislator in the north half of my district, which I don't live in, and it's a multi-county district, so I couldn't run in that. Yeah. And the south half of my district is occupied by Walt Sales, and he's in his second session. And unless he decided to run for my Senate seat, there wouldn't be an opportunity to run for anything anyway. Yeah. So that kind of precluded that, and after 16 years, it's nice to have a change of scenery anyway. And I looked at the different offices. You've got Greg Gianforte, that's a Republican incumbent in Congress. Obviously, you have Steve Daines, an incumbent Republican in the Senate. I think the governor's race, there's already a couple people in there. I think it's going to get extremely crowded. And we need good people at all levels. And one of the things that's probably the most enticing to me about the Secretary of State, well, 2 things, is overseeing the elections, which is probably one of the most important aspects of our republic, is to make sure we have fair and secure elections that people can trust and have faith in, because quite frankly, as you know, it's one of the most important things we do is vote. And, we actually treat a hunting and fishing license with more regard in this state than we do our right to vote. you have to be in the state 6 months, and you have to prove that you've been in the state for 6 months before you can get a hunting and fishing license. In Montana, you basically can show up with, don't even have to have a photo ID. You can show up with utility bill, and you can vote. So anyway, that's always been a big concern to me. Not that we don't have fair elections and that they aren't secure, but that continues to be the case, and that we can improve upon that. So anyway, the other big portion that I think of the Secretary of State's office is you're on the land board, which oversees all the state trust lands for the schools.
Right. And
being someone that's a pro-property rights guy that believes that we can develop our resources in the state in an environmentally friendly fashion, I would look forward to serving on that board to try to utilize those state lands to the best of our ability to benefit our schools. So that's a couple of the reasons. There's others, but they're probably small in detail. I don't think it's a tremendous surprise to people that are close to me that I had a desire maybe to continue on with public service. So no big surprise there.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised when you and I talked about it, and as I say, I think it's great that you're continuing on. I think you're an asset to the state, and this would be just one more way we can capitalize on your experience and all the things you've done for the state of Montana. So we're very pleased. I am anyway. that you're
well, Tom. I appreciate that.
So
it means a lot to me. Thank you so much.
Yeah. What about mail-in ballots? That's one of the things we've talked about. Are we going strictly to mail-in ballots? I don't know. I like stepping in that booth myself, but I don't. It doesn't matter to me. Whatever we have, just so we can exercise our franchise.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always been a strong advocate of going to the polls and voting. I have to admit, over the last few years, I have had a mail-in ballot. And part of the problem is we can't find people that want to work the day of the election. The election judges and the individuals that actually work at the polling places. If you go into those, you see that most of them are like us. We have gray hair, and you don't see the younger generation of people stepping up to fill in those positions. And they closed my polling place. I live out in the country, so I used to be real convenient when I was coming into town. I would pull into the country club there at Riverside Country Club was my polling place for years and years. I'd go in and I'd vote, and then that place closed, and they moved it all the way out to the Spring Hill School, which is about 5 miles past me the other direction.
Right. Yeah.
And it wasn't as convenient to vote. And I think that's a lot of the deal is that as we've had a difficult time finding people to work at the polling places, they've consolidated them, and oftentimes it's not as convenient for people to vote as it used to be.
Yeah, it's kind of a Chinese fire drill when you go in that one of the schools, and there's 18 different precincts in there. So.
Right. Got to find the right place. You got to find your name on the list. You got to go through the whole harangue.
Yeah.
So it's and if you really look at it, like I think Billings was as high as 70-80% of the people in the last general election voted out absentee ballot or mail-in ballot. So, and there's nothing to prevent people back in the good old days, 20 plus years ago or 20 years ago, you had to have an excuse to vote absentee. Now all you have to do is just say you want to.
Right.
It's still up in the air in my mind in terms of whether we go all in mail ballot. I'd have to do a deeper dive on it. One thing I have heard from the clerks and recorders is that the same-day voter registration is a big hassle for them. I honestly think we should back that up a couple, 3 days to give people the opportunity to still vote late, but not on the last day. And quite frankly, then we don't get our results until oftentimes the next day.
Yeah, because you've got to verify those votes that they're accurate or that they, they're who they say they are. Like you pointed out, they come in with a utility bill, and that may or may not be accurate. So
may or may not be them.
Yeah,
it's hard to say.
That's true. That's what that's the whole point. And I do like the idea that I can sit down at the kitchen table and take my time with the ballot, and kind of read it. And when you're standing in the booth, you feel you're kind of rushed because you're keeping somebody else out of it. But it's very important that we exercise that franchise, and so many of us don't. And that's the issue at hand.
Absolutely. I don't think any of us want to restrict people's opportunity to vote.
Of course not.
We just want to make sure that it's fair and accurate, and you can rely on it, and just as importantly, that people trust it. Yeah. If people don't feel like that their vote matters, then we're in deep trouble.
Well, the other thing about absentee, if there's something on there you don't understand, you got that voter's pamphlet, and you can kind of take your time and read through that. As you're filling out your ballot, and maybe that makes voters more informed. I don't know that people actually do that, but I would hope they would.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because of the position I've been in for a number of years. I get quite a few calls leading up to the election with people that have not questions usually about the candidates, but on judges, because judges typically are a little more obscure. They run as nonpartisan races.
Right,
and then oftentimes I do get calls on people that are looking at the ballot initiatives, and they just want to make sure that they're making an informed decision. Mm-hmm. If you think about what we do up here at the legislature, it's the equivalent of a ballot. Every bill is basically a ballot initiative.
Right.
But we go through a pretty lengthy process before we vote, and, it's heard in committee. You hear testimony on the bill. It's debated in committee, then it's either voted out or voted down. If it's voted out, it comes to the Senate floor, it's debated again. Mm-hmm. Then it goes to the other opposing body that goes through the same process. If there's any changes, it goes to a conference committee where it's debated again, then re-voted on by both bodies. Finally, an agreement is made, it's sent to the governor. Then he has the opportunity to veto it or sign it into law or let it become law without a signature. Very lengthy process with a lot of discussion, a lot of information, and unfortunately in the initiative process, oftentimes you just have a paragraph that might sound good, but you haven't really heard a lot of information on it. So it's easy, and even after we've gone through this process I just described at the legislature, we get it wrong. I mean, let's just be honest. We're human beings, and oftentimes we don't get the issue right. And it's even that much easier to make a bad decision on a ballot initiative because you haven't had the opportunity to really hear both sides of the story and all of the debate. So,
well, I remember, looking back to 185, all the money that was spent on that thing, to try to influence voters for that initiative. Quite a mess. Let's take a quick phone call, and then we got to take a break. Scott,
you betcha.
Caller, you are on the air with Scott Sales. What's up?
Oh, is this me, Tom?
That's you.
Oh, I just think that's a stellar idea for Mr. Sales. You got my vote, buddy. This is Gary.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
I've always, had, I guess, what I would explain as a level of comfort knowing you were there and leading the charge, buddy, because we always knew you could keep a lid on stuff. So you're going to be missed on the on the legislative end of things, but look forward to having you as our Secretary of State. I'll vote for you.
Appreciate that so much. Thank you.
Right, man.
There you go. Thanks for the call. All right, Scott, we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. 23 minutes after the hour. It is Monday, March 18, 2019. 22 degrees outside. Tom Eaglehoff, your morning mayor. Shaman Tobin on the line, and Scott Sales, the president of the Senate, is on the line. Thanks for joining us today, Scott. Appreciate it.
You bet.
And if you're just joining us, Scott is going to run for Secretary of State of Montana, so we wish him well in that endeavor. We got Tom waiting on the line to chat with us. So, Tom, it's all yours.
Thank you, Tom. Just like to say that I have been one of these people who's been doing the absentee voting thing for years. I find it very convenient, and my mother-in-law, when she was older, basically had very little vision and could not read it, and we did the absentee ballot with her, and her daughter would sit there and go over the whole thing so she could do it at home. One of the things I want to talk about is the same-day voting that Scott had mentioned, and I'm going to go back to 2006 when that was initiated in Montana. We had the election in November, and Scott, you may be familiar with this, I'm not sure. In November, or rather in January of that year, the high school district had a vote for the high school.
This would have been January 05, or I mean 07?
07.
Okay.
Because that was after the 2006 election.
Right.
Okay. when they received ballots back from the post office, they received over 3,000 non-deliverable.
Wow.
The elections clerk said that was 10 times the normal amount. That's the first election after same-day voting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I remember that election. I was running for the legislature for my second term, and I remember there was a line dangling wrapped around the courthouse after the close of voting.
Mm-hmm. And you also remembered that there were people wearing political stuff, feeding the
right. There was a lot of electioneering going on right in the line. They were handing out
sandwiches,
food and water bottles with Tester's name on it.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was quite a little show.
Yeah,
I think that we could do a better job. I didn't, believe it or not, I didn't vote for same-day voter registration in 2005. I was one of just a handful of legislators that thought that probably wasn't as good an idea as it was presented to us. But it passed anyway, overwhelmingly.
Right.
Like I said earlier, we treat our right to hunt and fish with more regard oftentimes than we do our right to vote, which I think is sad. I think we need to revisit that again. Now, obviously, as Secretary of State, you don't make the laws. That's up to the legislature. But that's always been an area of my concern that we're not doing as good a job on the day of the election as we could if we backed that up a few more days and made sure that we know everybody that's voting and that they have a right to vote in our elections. It's extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, one other comment, and I would like us to do what they do over in Europe, because we have this big complaint on election days that they're giving the results on the East Coast before the West Coast and Alaska and Hawaii have the results in.
Right.
In England and other countries, the results are not posted until the day after the election.
Wow. that would be a change. I can see some advantage to it. Like you say, you don't want to disenfranchise people in the western part of the country to go vote. It affects all the down ballot people tremendously that are running for office. Because let's face it, obviously a lot of people, the voter turnout for president is much higher than it is in typical years. And if people know that their candidate is going to win or hasn't got a chance to win, they're less likely to go to the polls. One thing about mailing in your ballot early is it prevents that from happening. I mean, there are upsides to it. There's downsides to it, too. I can remember when the big push was just the last few days of the election time to get the vote out. Now the vote to get the vote out really begins about 3 weeks before the election. And so it has really elongated the whole election process considerably, which actually it makes it quite a bit tougher for the candidates when it used to just have one day and everybody basically voted on that day.
Yeah.
But I appreciate your point of view on that because of the fact that, in a country as large and with the population being as great as it is on the East Coast, it can disenfranchise people out here in the western part of the country.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is, you fill out your ballot and send it in, and then your candidate does something totally stupid. You might want to change your vote.
Yeah, there could be that October surprise that could have a meaningful impact on things. So it has changed.
Yeah.
That whole process to quite a big degree.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I appreciate the call.
All right. Hey, thanks a lot, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Appreciate it. All right, Scott, we're out of time. Hey, thank you very much for being here. Very informative information. As I say, we're very happy to get this news that you're running for Secretary of State. So we wish you the best, and we hope to have you on as that election situation goes on. And any opponent, obviously, is welcome here as well. So we appreciate your efforts, and we'll maybe next week we'll chat about what the legislators do it, because you guys are winding down here. You don't have many days left, so
yeah, we're to the last 6 weeks, so we're getting right down to the.
That's what I was going to say.
Nitty-gritty.
Yeah. All right. All right. Hey, thanks a lot, Scott. Appreciate it.
You bet. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, we'll be back with 5 things you need to know with Shane and I. Right, Shane?
You bet. You bet.
All right, man. All right, hang in there. We'll be right back right after the news. 24 minutes before the top of the hour. It is Monday, March 18, 2019, 23 degrees outside. Shane Mattalman on the line with me from Vancouver, British Columbia. How you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic, buddy. It's a great day. We have great news and great, outstanding announcements. How cool is that?
Yeah, can't beat it. Can't beat it. All right. In case you missed it, Scott Sales is going to run for Secretary of State of Montana. Corey Stapleton is going to run for governor, so he's leaving that post, or, well, we'll see. I guess if he's not elected, maybe he'll be back. I don't know. Or maybe he just resigns and runs. Not sure how that works. Got to get the scorecard out for these folks, I guess. So, but anyway, Scott Sales throwing his hat in the ring for Secretary of State, and Tim Fox and Corey Stapleton both in the governor's race. So we'll see how that plays out. And well, right now, though, we got 5 things you need to know. And, of course, the big one, I guess, is Beto has raised $6 million in 24 hours, Shane. That's pretty good fundraising.
Yeah. Well, his name is Robert O'Rouke, which is going to go on the ballot if he gets there. So
yeah. So nobody will know who he is. Who's Robert O'Rouke?
Yeah.
Where's Beto?
Who's that? Sounds Irish to me.
So, Bernie's going to go by Berno.
Yeah, that's right. Or Uncle Bernie.
Uncle Bernie, yeah, there you go. Well, everybody's out raising money, and we've got more people in the race as it goes on. We've got about 20, I think, or so, or close to it, I think now.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot more than that. There's only a few that have polling worth talking about, but I think there's several other people that put their name in, and so. But anyway,
And Biden almost announced at a gap at a, you saw that speech he made, and he almost. Yeah, it was a pretty good gap, but anyway, the point is that it's going to develop into a great scene for the June debates. How cool will that be?
Yeah. Well, an interesting thing that came up, and I'll read this verbatim for you, and you tell me, Shane, what you think. One day as I was driving home from work, I noticed 2 children crossing the street. They were happy to be free from their troubles. This happiness was mine by right. I had earned it in my dreams. As I neared the young ones, I put all my weight on my right foot, keeping the accelerator pedal on the floor until I heard the crashing of the 2 children on the hood, and then the sharp cry of pain from one of the 2. I was so fascinated for a moment that when, after I had stopped my vehicle, I just sat in a daze, sweet visions filling my head, and that was written by none other than Beto O'Rouke.
Ouch. Ouch. What can you say? There's video, there's film. They got a lot on this baby.
Yeah. So
yeah, he has his issues with driving a car, That's, yeah, I don't see him going very far. I think the guy that might have a real shot at it is the governor from Colorado. Lou, I'm going to call him.
Oh, yeah. Well, O'Rourke raised $80 million in his record-breaking 2018 Senate run against Cruz, almost beat Cruz, or came close anyway.
Yeah.
One or 2 points, particularly in a red state. So, he's not a guy. Well, I would say he's, some of my liberal friends are saying that he is, he's Ted Kennedy, he's Obama all wrapped up in one. He's a charismatic young guy, skateboards out on the, his talks, and, waves his hands around a lot and everything. And I could see the resemblance between the two there. But whether or not he has, he's a charismatic guy, obviously, but whether he's got the chutzpah to make it through the campaign with some of the negative baggage, just like what I just read to you.
Well, his wife is married to a billionaire developer in
Texas. He's got money. Yeah, he married like John Kerry did, and John McCain. I was gonna say, John McCain married Anheuser-Busch. So
money.
So that's how you
money married.
That's how you get 7 homes. You marry well.
But he's got that issue as councilman. I think it was San Jose. Anyway, he was councilman in Texas and supported a deal for his father-in-law to develop a massive deal in the city. So it's a lot of these things will come out, and that people will vet him. And I'm unfortunately, I just as much as everybody likes the energy and the thought of him in the context you're referencing, I don't think it'll carry him too far. But we'll see.
But after Trump, will it matter? Will anybody care? I mean, Trump should not be president with all the negative that was foisted on him before the election. I mean, come on. You got to tell me the Access ABC wouldn't totally sink any other candidate in the world?
I agree with you 100%.
I mean, particularly coming out right before the election.
It would have worked, but the Democrats went too far, and the following week they had 9 women come out, and then they were all discredited. And that just, that ruined the news cycle for them.
They may not have been discredited in the eyes of Democrats.
No, of course not. Nothing he does. No. It's Crazy Gate we talk about.
What I'm getting at is that we assess these people differently now than we used to. Kavanaugh, go back in his past, O'Rourke, right, and all this dumb stuff. He's got these stupid poems and everything he writes about, washing his body parts. I mean, come on. It's got to be, and cows right? Well, I don't know. The guy, if he's going to tweet stuff like this, he's going to fit right in with the Trump camp. So, anyway, we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Anyway, El Paso City Council, 2005-11 that he sat.
Okay. All right. We'll be back. 12 minutes before the top of the hour. It's Monday, March 18th, 2019. It is 23 degrees still outside. Shane Tobin on the line with me from Vancouver, British Columbia. Half man, half amazing. Tom Eagleoff, your morning mayor. And you're on the KMMS Morning Soapbox. And from our text line at 478-8298, I disagree to many people are voting absentee and voting in other states. There's no way to cross-reference the voting list. Yeah, I was going to mention that to Scott, and I forgot to do it. A lot of the students here vote here and in their home states. So, that does happen. Also from our text line, 478-8298, after Trump, morality and principles don't matter. Cheat on your wife, don't pay taxes, okay. All right, there you go. And that's the point I was exactly making. I don't think it matters anymore what anybody did in their past. They could have, run down children, I guess.
I guess so, and maybe that's true.
Well, you had, on the other side of the aisle in the last election, 2016, you had, Hillary using an unauthorized server and emails and all that stuff missing, and the Clinton Foundation. Then on the other side, you had Trump and business deals and not paying contractors and, being married 3 or 4 times and, having affairs with porn stars and whatever, paying people off, but still got elected. So what I think we're in a whole new ball game, quite honestly.
Well, I just see this as the 1988 election again. The party going far left and McGovern type talking about socialism and everything. At the end of the day, if they continue down this track, I just see a landslide for Trump.
Yeah. Well, I would agree, and I don't think they will. I think a lot of the folks that are cooler heads in the Democratic Party are going to try to snuff out this socialist talk. I think they will.
At some point.
I mean, and kudos to the younger people coming into the Democratic Party. They want to change things. They haven't lived the experience of life yet, unfortunately. At 29, I was clueless, So, you could put me next to a box of rocks and try to determine who was dumber, but.
Yeah, there you go, yeah.
But,
again, you're 20, the 20s, the best decade of your life, me, mine, I.
Well, yeah, that's true. And that's what I think these people are doing. What's in it for me? I want free college. I want a guaranteed income. I want free health care. I want all this stuff. that I see the socialist countries have, and they seem to be able to do it. Why can't we? And I'm sorry, it just don't work out that way.
Well, spring break started this week. I hope some of the parents sent their kids to Venezuela for spring break.
Yeah, that would be a good place to go. Yeah, why not? Yeah. Spain or Italy, they're having a wonderful time over there.
Exactly.
And Paris, why not go to Paris?
Exactly.
Every weekend you can put on your yellow vest and have fun with the local Parisians.
8 weeks now in Paris, yeah.
18 weeks, yeah, wow.
18 weeks, right.
Yeah, 18 straight weeks they've been out there protesting every weekend. So
yeah,
I don't think anybody here is, I mean, even the Black Lives Matter only lasted about 10 weeks, so I don't know. All right. Unfortunately, we got to get out of here again. But hey, the good news is no Noxatril and no Babble. So it's gonna be a good break. So, and we got Steve White coming in at 8 o'clock. Badbills.com. We'll talk about the bills in the legislature with you, and we'll continue on. Be right back. Yes, it's another Monday. What a way to spend 1/7 of your life. Monday mornings. What do you think, Shane?
It's always the day after, right?
That's right.
The Monday morning trauma of waking up after a great weekend.
Yeah. Well, coming up at the 8 o'clock hour, Steve White will join us, badbills.com. And from our text line, let's see, we got a couple texts going here. Amazed of the overwhelming opposition to the proposed logging bill in the Gallatin Valley. That was the 400 acres that the Gallatin Front outbid the logging company to keep pristine for 25 years. Out-of-state libs moving here by the thousands to build their wood houses and voice their opposition of a bill in a paper also made of wood.
There you go.
There you are. And let's see, after Trump, morality and truth don't matter. You just have to lie to voters and tell them what they want to hear. Mexico will pay for it, or I won't play golf. And another from our text line at 478-8298. There's a reason POTUS must be 35 at 25. I don't know much about life. You don't know much about life. Hopefully mature Dems will snuff out this idiocy. So we'll see if they snuff it out or not. So
there you go.
Yeah. But, I agree. I don't think the Democratic Party, as I've said before, they need to get off this impeachment. If they want Trump out, get him out in 2020. It's really simple. Work toward putting the best candidate up, come up with good solutions to problems that we're facing, and get out there and make your case. And
policy and politics. There you go.
Yeah, but to continue down this socialist road or this anti-Trump road, I think that's not going to change. You don't have enough time to impeach him anyway. No. Even if you wanted to bring that action. And even if he was impeached, the Senate is never going to convict him, so, there's no way. No, I mean, it's a useless, I mean, it's like the national, the national emergency thing, a useless exercise in futility to, vote for that because he's going to veto it. So I guess it makes sense to get it on record, but other than that, not really much use in doing it. So anyway, we got to duck out here, pay a couple bills, and we've got Steve White coming up in the next half hour, so or hour. He'll be here for a while, I guess. So stay tuned for that. Tomorrow. Jeff Krause will join us at 8 o'clock Wednesday, Mike McCormick, and Friday, Jennifer. And so we got a full week of folks coming in, and hopefully we'll provide a good show for you. So it is 24 seconds before the top of the hour. It's Monday. What a way to spend 1/7 of your life, huh? All right. We'll be right back. 5 minutes after the hour of 8 o'clock, it's Monday, March 18, 2019, 23 degrees outside. Tom Eagleoff, your morning mayor, and Shaman Taubman on the line from Vancouver, British Columbia, half man, half amazing. And in studio, of course, Steve White as our Monday guest, badbills.com.
What a way to start the week.
What a way to spend 1/7 of your life, huh?
I've never thought about that. It was pretty depressing when you said that.
I know.
Wow.
It is pretty depressing.
Every day is 1/7 of your life, so it's the way it is. But it's cold out there. Cold out there.
Yeah.
And you are the news show I see this morning. You had a big announcement.
Yeah, Scott Sales running for Secretary of State. So yeah, we got a little. It was out in the out in the news area at least, but yeah, we kind of scooped it here at least for radio.
Well, Scott, I've known Scott for many years, and he's pretty knowledgeable as to what goes on in the Capitol building. But I'll tell you, anybody that runs for a statewide office, Tom, is that's a huge endeavor.
It is, yeah.
When I ran countywide for county commission, that was huge. Just a lot of miles, a lot of meetings, a lot of people to talk with about a lot of different issues. But when you're dealing statewide, and the Secretary of State,
where do you go? I mean, where do the where are you going to get the impact? Like Hillary Clinton, it doesn't matter if you get 3 million votes in a district. Right. You'd already get 3 million votes in anyway, so it doesn't really count. So
the thing you rely on are the local volunteers and the people that are going to help you out. But when you're dealing with a race at the same time that there's going to be a governor that's running and presidential race, et cetera, a lot of those hardworking individuals are committed to their campaign.
Other places,
So a lot of those office seekers are really, it's kind of on your own. I remember when I first ran for county commission, people assumed I had this army of people helping me. And when you run for an office, whether it's legislative or whatever, you're on your own. You are the team.
Pretty much.
My wife was extremely helpful. And that usually is often the case. It's your family that isn't very involved. And but I wish Scott the best in his race. And it's it's hard to believe people are starting to go
already for 2020,
signing up and getting bank accounts and stuff. Of course, what do you got? 52 running for president, I think.
Well, I think something like that. There's about 20 that we know their names, and maybe Henry Lang or whatever that guy is.
They better not get too many because there's only so many seats in a campaign bus.
Well, that's true. So they got to make an American Idol tour. So
they're going to have to get a train of all of those cars and stuff. So. Hey, a lot of stuff going on in the legislature.
Let's go for it.
Let's go for it. Well, I want to applaud the committee that dealt with the Medicaid bills on Saturday. But boy, I knew this was coming up because a lot of discussion on Medicaid. There were two competing bills, somewhat competing, House Bill 425 and House Bill 658. And the first one was from Cafaro and the other was from Buttrey out of the Great Falls area. But those bills were given an entire day to be heard.
Wow.
And it was in the what in the Capitol world is called Room 303, which is the old Supreme Court chambers. It's up on the road
so a bigger room.
Yeah, it's a bigger room. It's on the same floor as the House and Senate, but it's one of the best hearing rooms, and it's good for the public because it has a gallery around it and stuff. Yeah. But they started those hearings up at 9 o'clock in the morning, and here you had an all-day session or all-day hearing for that committee. This wasn't all 100 House reps. This was the committee members, probably 18 or 19 on that committee, and they very diligently took testimony all day. I don't know if they had a cutoff of time, but they had it arranged where the first half of the day was for the first bill, and then they took a break, and then they came back for the second bill.
Do they have a time limit like the city commission does?
It's up to the chair. Okay, in the county commission world, we didn't have a time limit unless we had a packed room.
Yeah.
And the thing that they are pretty restrictive of in the legislature is that, and I'll just give this as a hint to people, that if you come to testify and you're nervous, of course, you're going to bring your testimony that's typed up, and so you can read it. Oftentimes the chair won't let you read it. They will make it very clear to you that they can read, and just give them the testimony and give them a Cliff Notes version of what you were going to say, where you're going to read, and they'll take it from there. And I've seen some pretty disappointed faces from people that have, and lawyers oftentimes, they'll come with this brief, it's 3 pages, and they're going to read this whole thing. Yeah. And the chairman will pretty pointedly say, look, you've got typed testimony, provide it to us. And that's a hint to people, too, is if you do go to a committee hearing and you've got 18 members there on that committee, you should come. It's best to come with your testimony typed up with 19 copies, 18 for the members and 1 for the record, and just provide that. And that's something that they will all then get and be able to read, because they're not going to make a decision that day. With these 2 bills that were heard on Saturday, my understanding is they're going to make a decision on the floor of the House this upcoming Friday.
But do you think all 18 or 19 are going to sit down and read those 3 pages?
It depends on how many people gave them the pages.
Well, that's what I mean. If you got a stack of, War and Peace sitting there, are you gonna, are you really gonna?
We had a bill. It's been about
pick every 5th one or something like that.
It's been about 10 years ago, and I gave it was a homeschool bill, and we were opposing it, and it was pretty draconian. And we had, I think, a total of 4,000 people in the Capitol that came to that hearing. And they weren't all able to get into room 303, but they were on all 4 floors of the Capitol with the closed-circuit TV. Wow! But they did submit their typed testimony, and it filled 4 large boxes. Yeah. And I concur. It does not. I doubt that they read all that testimony. Yeah. But people have passions when they come to Helena. And the best thing you can do is when you leave the Capitol, that they've got something in their hands that they can review. Because
is it advisable to bring your typewritten testimony and turn it in after you've done your talk? You could summarize.
The way it works is the proponents are first, and then the opponents. So it's a little different, city commissioner, county commission. But when you'll say your testimony, and then you'll ask the chair if you could provide your written testimony, and he'll say, of course, and you'll hand it either to the clerk or to the representatives or the senators closest to you, and they'll just pass it out, and then you'll sit down. So it's at the tail end. I never give anything, whether it's graphs or anything, at the beginning of when I'm speaking, because they tend to look at it while you're speaking and they don't hear you.
Don't hear you.
That's the case, and anytime you're going to pass out information to any deciding body. So, but no, that was quite a hearing. I actually was online, and I certainly didn't listen to the whole day. So I didn't come prepared to give you a blow-by-blow as to what took place that day. But it was, of the parts that I listened to, I thought that they had a lot of good information, and it's going to be interesting to see what they decide. Representative Cafaro is a Democrat, and Representative Buttrey is a Republican. And, of course, the Republicans have more votes. I don't know how it's going to go. I have no idea if the governor's in favor of either one of those bills, because if it gets through the House, then it has to go to the Senate.
How are they different? How are the 2 bills
different? The biggest thing that was different was both of them kind of made increases in a permanent sort of way, but the difference was that Buttrey's bill required that if you can work, that you should work. Yeah. Maybe 20 hours a week or something like that.
A work requirement of some kind.
There was some sort of work requirement part of it. And Cafaro's bill didn't have anything like that. And the critics of Buttrey's bill said, look, that isn't right. We shouldn't make them work for this, even if they could work. And I have a feeling that's probably going to be the major discussion point, and it'll be interesting to see where the governor goes with that. But it's been a while since I read the bill, so I'm certainly not an expert, but that was sort of the key point.
Yeah. All right, let's take a phone call. 522-TALK is the number, 522-8255. Caller, you're on the air with Steve White. What's up?
Yeah, hey, Steve. I'd like to counterpoint your comment a little bit. As a person who is involved, a citizen involved in an issue several years back, as a citizen, I helped with writing a bill that was for protection of property here, and I got to tell you, it was the most disgusting affair that I've seen for a long time. So I went up there to testify in the committee hearing, and the bill was met with great opposition by both lobbyists throughout the state and various departments in the government in the state. And I was given about 15 seconds to talk, and in a rude manner. I mean, they almost threw me out of the place. They didn't want to hear from me. And I thought, well, this is a hell of a deal. You tried as a citizen to get involved in voicing your opinion in government, and it wasn't an extreme issue at all. It was something that it was worth consideration and hearing from the people. And I came away saying, this isn't a government by the people. This is a government by the lobbyists and the various departments within the state. They carry the weight. That's who these committees want to hear from. They don't seem to care what you and I, as citizens in this state, think. And that's my view today. The voice that we have is pretty muted there, and so I don't know what other people's views have been or experiences have been, but mine certainly was pretty distasteful.
Well, and I appreciate those comments, Bob. The hearings that I've gone to, I haven't really experienced rudeness or cutoff of testimony of people. I can imagine it's happened, but I don't see it that much. I've seen instances where I kind of have a sense that the legislators, some of the ones that don't share the viewpoint of the testifier, maybe are. I don't even see them roll their eyes, but you can tell through their body language that they're not
listening.
Yeah, they're not listening. They've kind of got their minds made up, and if it's an issue that is pretty black and white in their minds. Any amount of testimony isn't going to persuade them. I've been at hearings where I know that committee members are not going to, right out of the box, are going to agree with maybe my side of the testimony, but I also show up with an army. It's not just me. We've had big hearings that we were swimming upstream against something. And it wasn't difficult to bring 1,000 people to that Capitol building, and that's the purpose of those certain days in the rotunda. They'll have insurance days and farm days, and they need to show the legislators that this is a big deal that for that industry. But it might be better these days because every single one of those committees are now broadcast, either certainly audio, if not video. Yeah. And if they're going to have a bad attitude towards the testifiers,
not bode well for them.
It's not going to go well because everybody across the state's going to see it and across the world. But I'll tell you, if I were treated like that, I'd be talking to my legislator that represents me, maybe not on that committee, but he is in that Capitol, and I wouldn't leave the Capitol and go home until I chatted with him and says, look, this is what took place. And I think there would be a response from that.
Yeah.
I think you're right. And I'll give this thing quarter that perhaps it was a bad day for the committee. And you're right. Maybe it didn't have the visibility that they do now. And so there's a little behavior difference. And I've watched some of these hearings on MPAN, which is a great public service. And yeah, indeed, they don't seem to have that same characteristic that I saw back then.
Right.
But I tell you,
well, maybe
I was sure turned off by the public legislation.
Yeah, that's no good. That's no good.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for the call. I got to take a break. Yeah. Well, maybe it was maybe the chair was the signer of the bill, and this guy comes in to shoot it down.
If he came in on late Saturday afternoon after they had all this hearing testimony, you'd probably have the same experience.
I was going to say, if you're the last one.
I got a great story that we can tell after the break that'll give you an idea of some of the patients that they have.
All right. Hang on for that. We'll be right back. 25 minutes after the hour. It is Monday, March 18th, 24 degrees outside. Shane Matavin on the line from Vancouver, British Columbia. Half man, half amazing. Be nice and quiet over there. Just join the show. Steve White in the house. Tom Eagle off your morning mayor, morning soapbox. And from our text line, we were talking about the socialism earlier. I think having more population than half of Europe is a factor why socialism wouldn't work as well as Sweden, that has a population in the single digit of millions. And also Sweden is kind of dancing away from socialism here lately. Some of they're making a lot of changes over there. Let's see. You were right on, Bob. Powers to be, I think it means Steve, but you're right on.
Bad Bill Bob.
Yeah, powers that be have made all final decisions before a public hearing ever happens. So, I don't know. They may, depending on some testimony, might change your mind, but I think a lot of
them. If it's coming up to a tie, all you need is one.
Yeah. Also, we're talking about running for office and being 18 or 25 or whatever. The brain is fully developed at 25, but we need to draft 18-year-olds, so there it should stay. So we'll leave it at 18, I guess, huh? Sounds fair. Yeah,
I agree with that.
Well, I'm wondering, there's been talk about 16-year-olds voting.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm wondering if that had happened sooner, if we would have a bill in the legislature to have 16-year-olds vote this time around. But
well, there was one to allow them to register to vote as early as the age of 16.
Really?
It was killed.
Okay. All right. Well, that takes care of that.
Funny story, quick.
Funny story.
And Bob will appreciate this out there. And I was there when this happened, so it's not secondhand. It was a committee hearing, and those are pretty important. And people get up, and the lobbyists are there, and they're all going to speak about something. And this one guy, this has been, 8 years ago, and this one young man, he's probably in his 20s, he really wasn't tracking completely on the legislative process, but it was just something for him to do. And he came to the committee hearings, and he was writing poetry. And, that was his thing. He didn't have anything going on. It's a warm place to be. So he had a backpack and stuff. And so he was writing poetry. And then he'd get up and he'd go to the microphone, because anybody can go to the microphone, and he'd read his poems. And the chairman of the committee, I'd known him for a number of years. He said, I don't know what his name was. He says, now look at, we've let you do that, but we're going to, that we're going to restrict you to 2 minutes. You can't just keep going on and on and on. He said, yes, sir. And so he reaches into his backpack and he pulls out an egg timer, and he puts the egg timer on the podium because he knows that they just might shorten that. And he's going to take his 2 minutes, and that's the way it's going to be. And everybody in the committee just started laughing because everybody kind of knew that maybe there wasn't going to be 2 minutes. Maybe they'd say, your 2 minutes are up, and then maybe you don't really know. So he pulls out this egg timer, and turns it up. Hourglass, and sets it right in front of him, and then he starts reading his poem. And everybody just sits there going, oh, okay, what do we do with this?
Sounds good to me. All right, Steve White's in the house, badbills.com. We're going to continue talking about, we'll talk about some of the bills that have been killed.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some dead ones.
We want to talk about some dead ones that you don't have to worry about any longer. And maybe more of some of the ones that are getting a chance.
Got some hearings.
We'll see them.
Yep. Yeah, we've got 157 bills this week in hearings. Wow. So we'll go through some of those.
Okay. All right, that'll wrap it up for this half hour, and half hour yet to go on the KMMS Morning Soapbox, so we hope you'll stay tuned. Shane Matavin on the line, Tom Eagle off your morning mayor, Steve White, badbills.com. Get over and check out badbills.com. You'll be
follow along.
Yeah. Follow, play at home.
Yeah, play at home.
That's right.
Everyone's a winner.
All right. Back after this. 23 minutes before the top of the hour. It's Monday, March 18th, 2019, 25 degrees outside. We're getting a heat wave out there, Shane. Pretty cool. Steve White is in the house. We got a couple of bad bills we want to talk about, so go for it, Steve.
Well, we've got two bills that died, and I had one of them out on bad bills. It's House Bill 435, which is the gateway tax, and that was going to be a tax that was going to the counties that bordered the national parks were able to gain some extra revenue from, I guess, the tourists, and that was carried by Bishop, and that was tabled. The other one that is pretty relevant to our area is Senate Bill 203, carried by Senator Palmakowski, and that was to add another judge.
Yeah,
and that was
claims,
that was tabled in Finance and Claims in the Capitol, and I was curious to see how that would come out. That was for that committee to deal with it. It was related to the money.
Well, they were saying too that usually the Supreme Court makes that decision, but they just gave it their blessing.
Well, in this case, maybe they gave their blessing because they just didn't think it would fly. Didn't show up and testify for it by any means, but they didn't fight it either. But normally the counties are working with the Supreme Court, and in the Supreme Court will give a list of suggested areas to have their new judges in. And I was thinking that if this came forward by one senator for one county, that other counties would jump on board too, and none of them did. But I have a feeling that maybe what the Senate was thinking was that put Gallatin County at the front of this, when in 2 years they're going to have a list, and then they're going to be spending $1 million on this one judge before any of these others show up on this list. I think Gallatin County's down in 3 or number 4 on that list that'll come for the legislature.
Yeah, because there's a judge, a couple staff members.
It's not cheap. And then Gallatin County has to come up with the money to house them.
Yeah, it was close to $1 million, I think, by the time you get it all done.
Cheap. Yeah. And if we had a new L&J, then there would be, because there is a new courtroom being built in there for a future judge, but we're a ways from that. So at any rate, they didn't waste any time with it. They didn't drag it out. And it was a Senate bill, and it died in the Senate, so it never even had a chance to get across the transmittal to the House. So it was a long ways away.
Let me ask you before we take a phone call, Law and Justice Center, yes or no, in the general election?
I think that's going to be on the ballot, I think.
Well, it will, but I mean, yes or no? Do you?
Oh, for me?
Well, no, just in general. Will it pass or not pass? Do you think?
My prediction?
Yeah.
I don't know. They've got to show some plans, and I haven't seen any plans come forward.
Will that really make a difference at all? Is it law adjuster just a bad taste in your mouth that you just don't vote for? Because
it's one of these deals, Tom, where nobody knows even where it's at. I've had people when I was a commissioner says, "When are you going to build a jail?" And says, "Well, we already built it. Where's it at?" And I said, "Well, it's behind the L&J." But when we went to the voters way back in 2008, I think it was, for the new jail, we gave the voters 85% drawings. So it was 85% done. We broke ground in a month and a half from when they approved it. Okay. I don't think that's the case with the L&J. So there's going to have to be some planning done.
Okay. Let's take a quick phone call. Let me go take a break. Caller, you're on the air. What's going on?
Hey, Tom. This is Andy.
Hey.
This is a different subject. Thanks for having me.
Sure.
I've heard you talk lately how your show has had 400 plus downloads or so, and that's great. I wanted to fill you on a little secret, though, Tom and Shane. Me and my 5 liberal Democrat friends have been downloading your shows every day since you've been on the air, so we can have talking points to call you all out.
No problem.
So, one of the things that I heard on Friday is when you were talking about the wolves, and I agree with you all that something should be done about the feces. But yours and Shane's comments referring to Democrats as being parasites is divisive. Comments are dehumanizing and have no place, a kind and caring place.
I didn't.
Hold on just a second. Hear me out. Hear me out. Just today, there was an article in the Huffington Post calling out a gentleman named Jay Harrison. He's an ROTC Army student at Montana State University for posting Identity Europa flyers, which is a white supremacist group. He was posting those around town. You guys are doing nothing but perpetuating this type of behavior. My question to you is what are you trying to achieve with these types of derogatory statements? Should your listeners be subjected to this kind of behavior?
Well, I would.
I'm just going to leave it at that, and I'm going to hang up now. I want to hear what you guys have to say.
Okay, sure, no problem. I would simply direct people to look at our downloads. I write every hour about what we talked about, and if you have a situation where you want to hear what's going on, what we talked about that hour, what our points were, then it's a free country. You can either tune us out or tune us in, either or. It doesn't. We're here to get as many listeners as we can. We're not here to promote any political ideology or any party, but we do have our own opinions on things, and we're going to give those opinions, and the callers are more than welcome to call in and give their opinions. So that's my thought. What do you think, Shane?
I agree completely. I have no recollection of comparing Democrats to, what did he say?
Predators.
Insects? Huh?
Predators.
Oh, did he say creditors? I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Anyway.
I don't know.
So, as I say, you can look at what we talk about. We talk about local issues. We talk about things on the national scene. And everything is over there. You can pick and choose. If you find something that you disagree with, then by all means, give us a call and we'll discuss it. So all views are welcome here and always have been. So,
well, as a frequent listener, I appreciate greatly that you have this recorded and out there for people to listen to later.
Sure.
That's an important component of this station, and it's also an important component of the legislative process where if you can't make a hearing and you heard that somebody said something, then you can always go and listen to it yourself. And that's probably the biggest advantage of our technology. There's no more hearsay.
Well, I think it is because even when I listen to it and I'm here,
right.
I miss things,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe I'm looking at the board or, thinking about a break or things like that, but which we got to take anyway. So,
right.
right. But yeah, 531 downloads, and if my liberal friends are happy to download the show, then hey, more power to you because we hope to. Well, it depends on how long we're here, but I'm shooting for 1,000 downloads is my goal. So. All right, we got to take a quick break and get out of here, and we'll be back with Steve White right after this. 11 minutes for the top of the hour. We ran a little long there, so we're going to have to take a break here pretty quickly. Sorry to do that to you, but let's take a phone call, and then we'll take another break. Caller, you are on the line. What's up? Okay, did you get rid of him, Shane?
Not me. No, he was there. We were having a great conversation.
Oh, yeah?
Maybe he'll call back.
Yeah, not there. All right. So, sorry about that. Let's see. We got a couple texts from our text line 478-8298. They are predators and leeches. And another one, let me say it, Democrat ideology is contrary to the Constitution of the USA. So Andy is a capitalist and has his own business. I'd like to know what it is to make sure I never use it. So, well, I don't know. All right.
There you go.
Steve White and badbills.com.
Here in present. This week, we got, like I said, we got 157 bills that are going to be in hearing. And total right now in the hopper is 694 House bills, 339 Senate bills, and that doesn't include the resolutions, et cetera. And so that's over 1,000 bills. Now, of those that have been considered, there's 395 that have been killed. So you got a substantial percentage that are not going to happen. Of the ones that were requested, and this would include the ones that actually did become bills, there's 3,298, and that's about 1,000 more than 2 years ago. So wow. they really went kind of gangbusters there, asking for legislation. But with all that said, only 1,033 have actually been created into bills, and of the ones that have been considered by the legislature, 56 of them have actually entered into Montana law by now. It's called the chapter's been assigned, which means they've been put into a particular part of the law books. Some of them will take effect upon governor's signature, and if there's no mention of that in the bill, then by default they become law in October. And the governor is sitting there with 22 on his desk that he's got to consider, and he has actually vetoed one bill, and kind of at a loss. I can't remember exactly which one it is. This week, of the bills that are going to be heard, you've got some bills that are going to be heard in the House. One is a Senate bill, so it actually came across from the Senate, and now it's being considered by the House, and it's to repeal the 6-mil sunset, which is for the universities. And as a lot of people know, every 10 years you have a chance to vote on whether or not you want to allow that 6-mil to continue on. This bill actually will, this is by Barrett, he's out of the Missoula area. It actually would take away that 10-year vote. It would just make it a permanent 6-mil, so it just becomes an automatic tax. And so it did come out of the Senate, and it's sitting in the House, and on the 21st it's going to have a hearing before the Taxation Committee. Transportation Committee is going to be considering on the 20th House Bill 661, which is really is a bill that deals with the aviation fuel taxation, and I see it as pretty problematic. It's increasing the tax on the fuel by the gallon it goes from 4 cents to 14 cents a gallon, and that's a big deal because there's a lot of airlines that serve Montana, and if they start finding it's pretty expensive to come into Montana, they might not. So that's rural areas and populated areas.
All right, we got to take a break. A break. We'll take a break too. Whatever. I don't know. It's Monday, isn't it? I can tell. Rush Update is coming up next, and some other things. So stay tuned. Here's Rush. Well, we got about 1 minute, Shane, before we have to say goodbye. So say goodbye, Shane.
I look forward to seeing you and talking with you tomorrow. Thank your guests, as always, and be happy to be safe, one and all.
All right. Thanks, Shane. All right. Steve, thanks a lot for being here.
Well, thank you, Tom. It's always great to be here and start the week out being here. Folks, be careful on that ice that's out there. There's some pretty slick stuff. But, no, this is great. And I really appreciate the generosity of your airtime, and hope folks learn a little bit about the legislative system and be involved.
All right.
It's your system.
From our text line, 478-8298, the ad for Anderson Renewal Windows is the worst. So there you are. I guess we'll pass that on to the salespeople. All right, that does it for us. Thanks, Steve. Thanks to Scott Sales for announcing here that he is going to run for the Secretary of State, and we're happy about that. So we'll see everybody tomorrow at 6 a.m.